Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Tian Wong, and today we are going to dive into a topic that affects all of us: how government agencies are modernizing the way they deliver services using AI and automation. Government agencies today are under enormous pressure: rising citizen expectations, tighter budgets, aging technology, and a workforce that's being asked to do more with less. And it's not just operational pressure. Congress and the White House have made modernization a priority. From the Modernizing Government Technology Act to the Government Services Delivery Improvement Act signed in January of last year. Agencies are now required, not just encouraged, to transform. So the question becomes, how do you modernize without disrupting operations, and where does AI actually fit in? Joining me today are two experts from ANB Technologies, an Atlassian Gold partner that has helped government agencies transform their IT service management and service delivery, Harjinder Singh and Mike Damasio. Love for them to introduce themselves. Harjinder, welcome.
Thank you, Tian. Let me introduce myself. So I'm Harjinder from ANB Technologies. I'm one of the co-founder and managing director here at ANB. Real quick about ANB Technologies, like Tian mentioned, we are a Gold Solution partner, but more importantly, we help customers both on the public as well as commercial sector to improve and modernize their service delivery and cloud transformation initiatives. So happy to be here. Would love to continue this conversation.
Terrific. Thanks, Harjinder. Mike, welcome.
Thanks, Tian. I'm Mike Damasio. I'm an Atlassian Solution Specialist at ANB Technologies. In my role, I help organizations in both the public and private sectors modernize and transform IT as well as enterprise service management from a people, process, and platform perspective. Day to day, I work closely with agencies and organizations to improve, how they manage and deliver services to both their internal employees and their external customers or citizens when it comes to the federal and state governments. I'm excited to be here and really looking forward to exploring how AI and automation are helping to improve government service delivery.
Well, this is fantastic. I'm super excited. And before we jump into solutions, I wanted to set a little bit of context here. There's now a real legislative mandate behind government modernization. You have the 21st Century Idea Act, the MGT Act, and most recently, the Government Services Delivery Improvement Act, signed in January of 2025, which actually designates a federal service delivery lead to coordinate modernization across agencies. That's before we even get to DOGE and DOGE's software modernization initiative. So agencies are not just feeling internal pressure, they're being directed from the top. And with that as a backdrop, I'd love to start with you, Mike. What do you see as some of the biggest operational challenges on the ground?
Yeah, I think that legislative backdrop really brings urgency into focus. What we're seeing on the ground in the agencies are, they're caught in a really tough spot. Citizens today, they expect the same type of experiences that they're getting in their private lives, when it comes to Amazon, their private bank. And what that usually looks like is, fast, transparent responsiveness in their services. But the reality inside a lot of these agencies is that they're still working around disconnected systems, manual processes, and approval chains that are just slow, maybe outdated. And here's the thing, it's not from a lack of effort. The agents on the front line, they're working harder today than they ever have. But when the service team, desk team is spending half their day chasing down approvals, manual routing requests, they're not actually delivering services.
Right.
And that's the time and capacity that just gets eaten up by the process itself. What the legislation is doing by mandating it is making it a priority and bringing accountability to it. So agencies, have to improve, but they're doing it on tight budgets, staffing constraints, and in a lot of cases, technology that's been, patched and stitched together over decades. That's really the core challenge that we're helping organizations work through today.
Thanks, Mike. Harjinder, same question for you. From your vantage point, working directly inside these agencies, what are the biggest operational challenges you're seeing on the ground?
Well, just adding to what Mike was saying, beyond just the budget pressure, a lot of these agencies are dealing with technology debt, right? That's building for decades. So when we walk into these gov agencies, we still see organizations running on manual, paper-based workflows, processes, right? And we are at this age of AI, and still we see that. It's amazing. But on top of it, there are also gov agencies who are running their technology, which is 10, 15 years old. Problem with that is those are not meant for today's fast-paced environment, right? So we see that a lot. And to Mike's point, the citizens, they expect the service expectations like they see it in the private world, right? The private sector. Those are some of the biggest challenges we see today. And this needs to be transformed.
100%. 100%. So both of you are pointing to this gap, right, between what agencies need to do and what their tools actually allow, especially when you're talking about 15-year-old legacy systems or manual processes, right? Harjinder, I'd love to go a level deeper with you. You know, how are these manual workflows and legacy processes impacting service delivery day to day?
Absolutely. Great question, Tian. So this is where impact actually becomes real, right? So it's not just an technology issue. It's an issue that's impacting both the employees and the citizens. Let's start with employees first. So these legacy systems that I mentioned earlier, it's creating frustration among all the employees. They submit a ticket or they submit a request, which they have no idea where it is. They can't get the status. It's been there for weeks, if not months. And it just, demotivates them from their day-to-day work. So instead of enabling their job, it's actually demotivating them. Also, a lot of these legacy platforms are working in their silo. So they are not connected, right? So that's the other problem. Because they are not connected, everyone is working in their own particular silo world, right? Now, let's move on to the citizen side, right? So they expect, like I mentioned, the private sector style satisfaction, right? So that's where you see that you go to the DMV or other offices and there is long lines, right? Long wait times. And here we are where we can even track our pizza when it will be delivered, right? So comparison for those services between the public sector and private sector, it's really coming in, and citizens or the customers, they expect that same behavior, same service level expectations.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I 100% agree with that. And, Harjinder, it sounds like the awareness of the problem is obviously there. The pain points are there. And with legislation like, GSDI Act creating these formal accountability structures and standardized metrics, agencies can't afford to stand still anymore. But there's often a gap between knowing what you need to modernize and actually getting it done. So what would you say, Harjinder, is holding these agencies back from making that leap?
Yeah, great question. So most agency leaders, they know there is a need to modernize. It's not like it's unknown by them. The challenge is always taking the first step. So a few things typically get in their way. First is the risk, right? So they are providing critical citizen services, right? So their challenge is always, what am I going to break if I change that? Whether it's a legacy platform or even paperwork, right? What am I going to break? So that risk factor is there. Number two, the culture itself. They are used to of doing things in a certain manner, and changing that, it's typically a big deal, right?
That's more of a human nature issue, would you say? Yeah,
exactly. Change is always difficult, right? However, taking that to the next level, that's where change management or organizational change management and executive leadership is really, really important with these type of initiatives. You need to get the buy-in from top level leadership so that change can also be enabled across the organization. And of course, there is that budget uncertainty. That's the other issue, right? However, typically these digital transformation sometimes it's a multi-year journey.
Yes.
So if you could break that down and show some low-hanging fruits, real value in a quick fashion, that's then easy to justify. Right? So, however, the encouraging news is because of these legislative mandates and growing service expectations, the conversations are changing,
Yeah.
right? So it's actually helping the CIOs, the CTOs of these gov agencies to build a stronger business case, and these are getting approved, right?
Right.
So to me, the first is taking these. First step is really important.
Yeah.
Understanding the risk and then making sure the leadership buy-in is there.
Thanks, Harjinder. The cultural piece is really fascinating to me. Mike, when an agency does decide to move forward, what does that modernization journey typically look like? Like, where would they start? Harjinder talks about you got to start. So, how would an agency start?
That's a great question, and honestly, the starting point isn't where most people would expect. A lot of agencies want to jump straight to the automation and AI, but if your underlying processes are broken and your teams don't have the visibility, into what actually is happening, you're just, automating the chaos, that lies underneath. So we always start with service management as the foundation. Get clear on what requests are coming in, how they're being handled, where the bottlenecks are. So really understanding that current state. That visibility is everything. And then tied to that is the underlying tool sprawl. And Harjinder had mentioned about these tools that aren't connected, which adds another element of complexity and risk. So most agencies have accumulated, a patchwork of systems over the years that don't talk to each other. And part of our job is helping them to consolidate onto a modern platform that gives them a single view across the organization or across the enterprise. Once that foundation is in place, then when automation and AI is actually delivered on top, that's where you really create the value. It's really a crawl, walk, run approach. And the agencies, the ones that try to skip those, skip the steps, or those are usually ones that then struggle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned a modern platform, right, as the foundation. What does that look like in the government context?
Right.
Specifically, because it's never a one size fits all, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely is not a one size fits all. Right. And that's an important distinction. In the government context, you can't just pick any platform. There are real compliance and security requirements that have to be met, FedRAMP, being one of them. So the platform conversation starts there. What we typically land on with agencies is the Atlassian platform and its Jira Service Management solution, which is available in both the commercial and government cloud environments. It checks the compliance boxes. It's an enterprise grade and scalable. But what really sets it apart is the flexibility of it. A lot of agencies think service management is purely an IT function. And yes, it's usually where we typically will start, but not always. A lot of agencies think of service management as purely an IT function. And yes, that's usually where we start. But JSM can support HR, facilities, legal, finance, really any team that's managing requests and workflows. So you're not just buying a point solution for one department. You're investing in a platform that can scale across the enterprise over time. That's a really important value proposition to government, especially when budgets are tight. You get more value out of a single platform than you would piecing together a bunch of siloed or different tools.
Thanks, Mike. And Harjinder, you've had a lot of success implementing these types of systems with these agencies, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about sort of the before and after, and the transition piece.
Yeah, I love this question because again, this is where you're going to see the real transformation, right?
Yeah.
So many agencies, like I mentioned, they still operate on those legacy platforms, right?
Yeah.
So their before picture is something that was implemented 10, 15
Messy.
years ago, messy, lagging,
Right.
Difficult to change, high cost. Small little changes require big statement of works by consulting agencies, right? Or consulting companies, I should say, and heavily reliant on manual processes. This is the the before state. Once you do the transformation to platform like Jira Service Management, or now they call it Service Collection, you see a modern connected service experience, right?
Yeah.
To Mike's point, platform like this are not just meant for IT support, but they are enterprise service solutions. So they could be used by HR, facilities, procurement, wherever you have a process and a workflow, you could pretty much
Sure.
leverage platform like Jira Service Management. So we have seen agencies that make this transformation and achieve meaningful results. Some of the most common ones are reducing the manual effort, reducing manual efforts, improving response times, streamlining processes like HR employee onboarding and offboarding. These are complex processes, but you can
Sure.
streamline that leveraging platform like Jira Service Management. So more importantly, modernization isn't just about technology, right? It's about delivering faster service, greater transparency, and a better experience for both employees as well as citizens.
Super important,
Yeah.
really important. Let's shift gears for a second here and let's talk about the piece that everybody's asking about, AI and automation. One thing to modernize the platform, but artificial intelligence is being layered on top of everything right now. It's worth noting this isn't just a technology trend, right? It's state legislatures from Connecticut to Minnesota are passing AI specific bills now, and the federal government's getting involved. They're actively pushing agencies to adopt AI responsibly. We're sort of in uncharted territory in a lot of ways. How do you think agencies should be thinking about AI in their service delivery strategy realistically? Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the most important reframe here is that AI is an accelerant, right? Not a replacement. And what that means practically is the AI amplifies what's already there. So if your workflows are clean, your data is structured, AI can do incredible things. But if the foundation isn't solid, you're just amplifying the mess that lies underneath. So the sequence matters. Where we see AI delivering real value is service delivery in two areas. One, augmenting your agents with intelligent routing, auto classification, and suggested resolutions. On the other side of it, we're also seeing AI, improving the self-service so employees and citizens, can actually, get the answers without even picking up the phone or submitting an email for help. And in the government context, specifically, this is a big deal. Agents are being asked to meet these legislative mandates with constrained budgets and limited headcount. AI becomes a force multiplier. You may not be able to hire your way out of modernization, but with the right foundation and AI layered on top, you can close the gap in a very meaningful way.
Yeah, no, that's excellent framing, Mike. Thank you for that. And AI works best when the foundation is already solid. Harjinder, what are some specific places inside government service delivery where you're seeing AI make the biggest impact right now?
Yeah, absolutely. If we kind of divide the question into two parts, first let's talk about the AI and then we'll talk about the automation. The biggest impact where AI is bringing is helping employees and citizens get the answers quick, using the knowledge base, using the knowledge that the agency already have. You see that today on the private side, private sector or the commercial sector, how you can use OpenAI or Claude, right?
Yeah.
And it gives you answers based on that knowledge. Similarly, for agencies, they already have plethora of knowledge stored in different documents, whether standard operating procedures, run books, those should all be digitized and then used. That should be leveraged by AI to get faster answers, reliable answers. What that does is it enhances self-service. To Mike's point, citizens can now get their answers by themselves without picking up a phone. And then that's where tools like Rovo are becoming an extension of service delivery team, which is helping support teams find answers faster, draft responses to their customers faster, and handle routine requests so that they can focus on more complex work. At the same time, when we talk about automation, think about your complex processes which require multiple technologies to talk to each other. Take an example about employee onboarding, employee offboarding, procurement processes.
Sure.
Now, those can be integrated and automated. And what that'll do is it'll gonna streamline those processes and again, give a great experience to the citizens as well as internal employees. So what makes this so powerful is AI improves the decision making and access to the knowledge, while automation is eliminating the manual effort to a lot of extent. So together they help agencies deliver services faster, reduce the workload, and obviously create a better experience, like I mentioned before, for both employees
Yeah.
and citizens.
Thank you for that, Harjinder. And Mike, Harjinder mentioned Rovo. That's a new product in the Atlassian ecosystem that's getting a lot of attention right now for obvious reasons. And for those of you who haven't heard of it, would love for Mike to break down what Rovo actually is. Why does it matter for government agencies?
Yeah. Well, Rovo really is the things that's exciting about Atlassian ecosystem. The simplest way to probably describe it is that Rovo is Atlassian's AI layer. It essentially is an AI teammate, that works alongside your team. It can search across your entire enterprise, knowledge base, answer questions, even take action on tasks, and support both your agents and your end users in real time.
Mm-hmm.
In the context of Jira Service Management specifically, Rovo can service the right knowledge articles in the right moment, suggest resolution times, and draft responses, basically handling the repetitive work that's used to require a human to stop and look something up.
Mm-hmm.
That's meaningful productivity lift for service desk teams. Now, this is important to be transparent about. Rovo is currently available on Atlassian's commercial cloud, but it's not yet available on an Atlassian government cloud. So for agencies that are operating in that FedRAMP environment, it's something to have on your radar as the roadmap evolves, but it's not something that you can deploy today. We always want to make sure our agencies have a full picture and when they're planning their modernization strategy.
Thanks for that, Mike. So what I'm hearing from you is that Rovo is basically giving every service agent an informed AI assistant that just kind of sits right next to them and gets things done. Harjinder, a question for you. How does this actually change the day-to-day practice for a government services team?
Yeah, absolutely, Tian. Tian, that's exactly what makes Rovo so powerful, right? So today, service desk agents spend a lot of time searching through the knowledge bases, right? Old tickets, documentation, that's been there for ages to find the right answer. Rovo dramatically reduces that time. It can go through old knowledge base, Confluence, wherever it is stored, whether it's on SharePoint or Confluence. And not only it can find that knowledge article, but it can suggest resolution to for those requests or incidents to the support team, and even drafting responses directly within the workflow. In many cases, Rovo Service Agent can act like another member of your team and can take action, not just suggestion, but it can actually take action. And it also helps preserve institutional knowledge by making expertise from past incidents or issues and documentation instantly accessible. The result is, again, simple, faster resolution, more productive agents, and better experience.
No, I absolutely love the framing of surfacing, storing, and being able to access this institutional knowledge that's been there for many years and decades in some cases, right? Mike, how does JSM combine with Rovo sort of help unlock that?
Yeah, well, this is one of the most compelling parts of government agencies specifically, because that institutional knowledge risk is very real. People retire, teams turn over, decades of knowledge walks out the door, potentially could walk out the door. But with Rovo, what Rovo does is connect all that through knowledge connectors by indexing across other Atlassian solutions like Confluence and Jira, as well as third-party systems. So instead of an agent hunting through the 5 different tools to find an answer, it's surfaced in context right then when they need it. And the compounding effect over time is what really sets it apart. As the AI learns from your environment, it gets smarter. For agencies, sitting on a decade of institutional knowledge, it helps to turn potential liability into a strategic asset.
Yeah, good point. I like to shift the focus to making it real. If I'm a CIO or an IT director at a government agency listening to us right now, right, I've got a lot of pressure on me. I've got legislative mandates coming down from above, a whole procurement process to navigate, skeptical leadership teams, skeptical employees, who are potentially resistant to change, right? We know that's human nature. So, Harjinder, I'd like to start with you. From agencies that are in that position, which is probably most of them, where would you start?
Yeah, great question. So I suggest starting small and very highly focused, right? Don't try to transform, obviously, everything at once. Uh, some of the best examples are picking a high volume, high paying service area, right? It could be IT, it could be HR, where you see a lot of complaints, right? So instead of transforming everything, pick an area, start there. Demonstrate time to value quickly and let the data make the sense internally. I'll give you an example where we are working with one of the local agency where what the CIO mentioned was, let's look at the data and find out where is the team spending most amount of the time. Where are people actually complaining about, right?
Yeah.
So we looked at the data and figured out top 5 items where support teams were spending time. And then those 5 becomes your AI and automation candidates. Imagine where your team is spending most amount of time, and now if you can automate it or use AI to kind of do the self-resolution.
So going after low-hanging fruit, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So that'll be our suggestion, to starting very small and highly focused area that can bring you better ROI.
I love the concept of starting basic, very simple, get some points on the board, build momentum.
Yeah.
Mike, what about your thoughts on what not to do?
Well, I build on what Harjinder said, because the start small piece is exactly right.
Yeah.
And what we see derail that approach is underinvesting in change management, which Harjinder has already alluded to. You can pick the perfect use case and still struggle if you haven't been able to bring your people along. So getting early buy-in, communicating the why, right? Why are we doing this? Training your teams. That's what determines whether it's actually going to be successful in the long run. The other big pitfall is treating modernization as purely a technology problem. Agencies invest in a great platform, flip the switch, and wonder why adoption is low. Technology is only one piece. If the processes around it haven't been addressed, the platform alone won't save you. And lastly, define what success looks like before you start. Harjinder mentioned, letting the data make the case, and that only works if you've established, your baseline up front. Without it, you can't measure progress and you can't sustain momentum for the next phase.
Yeah, I'd love to double click a little bit on, what does success look like. So once an agency makes this big investment, they get other people involved, right? They spent money. What should they realistically expect to see, and on what type of time frame?
I'll be specific, because I think that setting the realistic expectations is part of what makes these efforts succeed. In the first 60 to 90 days, agencies should expect early wins, and that could look like reduced ticket volumes through self-service, deflection, faster SLA attainment, less time spent on manual routing and approvals. Over the following 6 to 12 months horizon, you start seeing the broader impact. So cost avoidance, from automating manual processes, reduced, onboarding time, and improved satisfaction scores for both the employees as well as, your citizens that are requiring these services. And if you defined your baseline up front, these numbers tell a compelling story that gives leadership the confidence to keep pushing forward and expand the investment.
Yeah, those are really compelling numbers, and I applaud you for finding stuff that's relatively easy to measure and tangible, so you can actually demonstrate, as Harjinder said earlier, the ROI to your team and to management and to obviously the citizens out there. Last question for both of you, and this has been a great conversation. I appreciate all of your insights, but there's one takeaway you'd like our listeners out there to leave with today. What would that be? Mike, love to start with you.
For
one
me,
takeaway. Yeah.
Well, for me, it comes down to mindset. The agencies that struggle with modernization usually are the ones treating it as a compliance exercise, checking the boxes to make or meet a mandate. The agencies that pull ahead are the ones that see it as an opportunity. Because at the end of the day, this isn't really about the technology. It's about enabling your employees to do their best work and deliver, better services and faster services, to the citizens who depend on you. The legislative mandate have made this a requirement, but the mission behind it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
So my takeaway would be, don't just modernize because you have to. Modernize because it delivers a better outcome and experience for your own employees, and more importantly, the citizens that you serve.
Sure, absolutely. Harjinder?
I'll speak about the cost of waiting, right? So every year on a legacy platform is another year of technical debt. Frustrated employees, a widening gap between what citizens expect versus what you're delivering. So the agencies moving now are building a compounding advantage. So AI capabilities are only accelerating. The longer you wait, the steeper the climb will gonna be.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Recommendations, start ASAP.
Yeah, no, 100% with that. And I would love to thank you guys for joining us. Today has been a very rich conversation. And just to summarize what I'm taking away from this conversation, government agencies clearly dealing with real compounding challenges, legacy systems, manual workflows, resource complaints, and the mandate to modernize is coming from the very top, right? Through legislative initiatives like GSDI Act and Doge's software modernization initiative. And the path forward isn't just about buying new technology. This is a bigger than technology problem, right? It's about building the right foundation with a platform like Atlassian JSM, laying on top of that artificial intelligence, including tools like Rovo, that'll unlock knowledge and efficiency that agencies need to actually serve people better. And the agencies that start now, one service, one process at a time, one use case at a time, they'll be best positioned to meet the demands of the future. So, Mike, Harjinder, thank you both for sharing your insights today. And thank you to everybody for joining us. Until next time.
Thank you.